Obviously, Marc Jackson, Sixers pre- and post-game analyst on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Let's get right into it. Mark, obviously, the Sixers have been dealt a huge blow with Joel Embiid missing potentially 2 to 4 weeks. Number one, I don't know if you know anybody who's had this injury or are aware of how other guys have dealt with this, but 2 weeks from now, next Saturday or 2 Saturdays from now is the start of the playoffs. Would you anticipate seeing Joel Embiid ready for Game 1 in the first round?
Unfortunately, I do not. I have teammates. Unfortunately, I've had almost every injury known to man, but I've not had that particular injury. But I have had teammates, some that have come back exactly 2 weeks after surgery. Then I had some like my teammate at Golden State and Vertigo Cummings. It kept him out for darn near 2.5 months. So it depends on the surgery. When they finish, what they find, what they able to fix, how they able to patch him up. But I'm hoping for the 76ers fix, Joel Embiid can find himself similar to Michael Conley in a mask, looking like Batman, representing Philadelphia and the 76ers 2 weeks after surgery.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I found a list of guys who have had this. Dante Cunningham had the fracture. He missed 1 game. Etan Thomas had the fracture. He missed 28 games. I mean, it seems like a lot happens, depending on whether you need surgery and how swollen that area is. So I guess we really won't know. But realistically, Mark, does this put a damper on these final, 8 to 10 games here and where the Sixers realistically could finish?
Yes, it does. I truly believe, and I think a lot of us believe strong-heartedly, that the Sixers was going to get to that 50-mark win and had a chance to actually upset Cleveland or Milwaukee and get to 51 wins. This was a major damper on what they can do in the ending of this regular season. And let's just be honest, what it does going into the playoffs, as of one day before he got hurt, I stepped back and looked at all the teams, look at the rosters, and I truly believe, and when I'm said, I really thought this team could upset teams to get to the Eastern Conference Finals by the way they were playing.
I think a lot of people were starting to believe that the way they were playing, coupled with the way they probably would have finished the season on a pretty good note here, that they could have made some noise in the playoffs. And now, realistically, Mark, the schedule is not difficult. They do have a bunch of winnable games here. Do you still think that they can get to that 3 seed without Joel Embiid?
I really do. It depends on if LeBron wants to, catch a cold or maybe infection or something for a few days. It can. But now there's a lot's going to rely on, of course, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric. A lot's going to rely on those guys. And if can they answer the bell when the bell is rung? I really believe they have enough talent, good players and good pieces. But when the bell is rung, can they stand up and come out for that bell? That's the key.
So when that bell's rung, who needs to step up the most, and how do you see the lineup shaping out or the roster shaping out? Who's going to start, who's going to come off the bench, and what are some of those things they need to do with Embiid out?
Great question. I really think Amir Johnson can step into that starting position with that first unit. Because with that first unit, they have guys that can score. I really believe that Amir would be a starter for them, and I truly believe that here's Rashawn Holmes. I truly believe with that backup unit, he might even play more than Amir. I really believe that with him, depending on last time, I think this is his wake-up call. This is the chance where they're forced to play Rashawn Holmes, and he's going to have some huge games going into the playoffs where, respectfully, if Joel Embiid is not ready and not right, coach is going to got to answer the question, who's going to play more, Rashawn Holmes or Amir Johnson? But expect initially Amir to get the start, Rashawn Holmes to back him up, and depending on matchup, expect to see a lot of Dario Saric and Ilyasova at the 4 and the 5 position.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question because, look, I was at the game the other night, Mark. I saw Holmes play really well without Embiid, but Dario really stepped up, especially from those hustle plays like where he dove on the floor and threw the ball forward to Ben Simmons. How do you think Dario's role changes with no Embiid in there?
I think Dario has to score more. I think he's been a bright spot. I truly believe Dario, if not has to be the top 2 most consistent players on the 76ers roster. I really believe he has shown time and time in, no matter who's in that other uniform, he's going to perform, and he's doing it very, very consistently. So look for him to have to score in the high 20s, mid-20s consistently, 24, 25, 26 a game. Look for J.J. Redick to have to step up the scoring punch. And then we go back to the big point guard, Ben Simmons, who said a few weeks ago, I'm not the kind of guy to score 45 points, but I know I can set people up. Well, I'm sorry, Ben. You might have to score at least 20 a game for this team to be able to do well in the playoffs without Joel.
Right, I was going to follow with Simmons and how his role might change. I mean, now with Fultz in there, do you think we see Simmons, position himself more on the block and maybe, I don't want to say play the five like Magic in the finals there, but see him more in that role where, he's kind of helping alleviate the fact that you don't have Joel down in the paint?
Yes. I truly believe if now, which I did not foresee this happening at all for the remainder of the season, Markelle, Fultz, and Ben Simmons playing together. But depending on matchups, it may be maybe that time where we see Fultz and Ben on the floor at the same time. Now, if that's the case, look for Ben to be ducking in a lot more on guys under the basket, trying to get some post positions. I don't see it happening often, but I do see it happening enough where it can draw defenses in, and he's able to find players on a post area. So, yes, I do see Ben have to be like Magic Johnson in a championship situation. He has to be plugged in whichever position is needed. Point, small forward, center, wherever we need you, Ben, we need you to be there.
Do you think they have to maybe play Fultz more now than they wanted to try to pick up some scoring here with Joel out? And, I mean, the fact that they were trying to ease him in here, but do you think they now need to maybe give him some more time?
I do. That's a great question. I truly do. Because let's be honest, guys, with the second unit, I keep repeating that, the 76ers sometimes go through lows where they can't score the ball. When teams are making runs, they're unable to match that team gun for gun and get some buckets. But now with folks back, we may be forced to kind of push him in a little bit too much too soon, but it's what the team needs. So look at him. Instead of playing 14 minutes, let's see what he's doing 18 or 20 minutes. Let's see if he can give us some more scoring. Look to see that happen.
What would you say about him the first two games? Have you liked what you saw? Are you more encouraged about what you saw or about what you thought?
I thought what I thought. I expected a lot of rust, but I still expected a guy who has to find his way, but still show flashes of the skill that made him the number one overall pick. I do believe with every game he shall improve. He will get more confidence in his shooting. I think he has confidence in getting by people, but his shooting, his ability to be able to create, I think he'll get more confident, and I think that would help the 76ers try to add scoring with them, give him more of an offensive punch. So I really see that happening more. But this is a Brown when I've seen him. He's shown flashes of brilliance. He's shown a lot of signs of rust. But every game, that rust will start to be oiled up and leaked off, and he will be show more promising signs of flashing.
Mark, when everybody talks about Joel Embiid, they look at the points, they look at the rebounds, they look at those double-doubles, but how do they compensate for losing him on the defensive end of the floor?
Joel Embiid, to me, is up there, top five, even top three, now that Kawhi is out, top three of best two-way players in the league. He's giving you his 20 and 10 offensively, but he is such an anchor for this team defensively. Now, with that being said, I do give credit where credit is due. Ben Simmons is a very good defensive player. He's actually shocked me remarkably while how he's able to defend smaller opponents. So I do give him that credit. But when you have Ben Simmons back there cleaning things up, that makes your job a lot easier. He is a presence on both ends of the floor, and people game plan for him on the offensive end as well as the defensive end.
Yeah, and I know the one thing you lose with Joel in there is really that rim protection. I mean, that's where they're really going to suffer. Yeah, you can slide guys in. And one thing Ersan does really well, I mean, he sits in there and he'll take a charge so you can really defend the paint, but you don't have that rim protection that really is something that Joel, he alters so many shots.
Yes, he does. You know, even when teams see him coming, they kind of throw it, let me throw it up a couple of inches higher because Joel is coming. So they always, when they drive, they're looking for him. They're looking for him surrounding the basket, also because you think you have him beat. But he is so great with baiting players who think they have open layups. and then he just comes out of nowhere and swats that ball, or at least makes you think twice, and that throws your game off a little bit.
We know this is a big downer. We'll see when Joel can return. Brett Brown says the team has no sense, really, of how long he'll be out, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And obviously, Mark, if it's on the 4 weekend, he would miss the start of the playoffs. The question is, if they start the playoffs without Joel, can they make it far enough to get him back?
They really believe in matchups. It really does believe in matchups. But I truly believe if they do not get Joel Embiid back sometime during the first round, I think the Sixers will struggle to get out of the first round. Yes, they have talent, but they're a totally different team without Joel Embiid. He's the anchor. He's the force. He's the motor to get that team to keep going. So if they don't get Joel back sometime during the first round of playoffs, 76 might be in trouble.
All right, Marc Jackson, NBC Philadelphia, Sixers pre- and post-game. They take on the Hawks, 7:30 tip right here on 97.3 ESPN. So it's a winnable game without Joel. And then, of course, they take on the Hornets on Sunday, another game that, they got a bunch of games they could win without Joel. That Cleveland game, though, could be tough, and that one could be the one for the number 3 seed, so we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll be talking to Mark throughout the playoffs here on the Sports Bash. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, guys. Good talking.